going to be we're going to be recording the session today so that those who can actually attend in real time can have the opportunity to go back and have a look at the presentation at a later date. This will enable them to find out what we were talking about. They won't have the same interactivity that you have here in terms of being able to ask questions. I'm going to assume you don't know very much about them. And we're going to look at how you would consider using them in the application for learning. Also, I'm going to demonstrate our Open Badge series as a way of giving you an example of how Open Badges work and the thinking and considerations behind them. And I'm also going to highlight some Open Badges that are being used in the sector. Okay, so what are the current challenges for students and how can Open Badges support this? So, motivation to keep going can often be a challenge. Students can feel that they have long periods of time before actually getting any sort of formal recognition of learning that's happening when they're undertaking courses. So particularly if it's those that maybe have not engaged very well in a formal learning context before, so perhaps they were not so keen on, they didn't have a very good school experience, or returners to learning, those who've maybe been in the workplace for quite a long time, may find returning into the learning experience difficult to adjust to. So by motivating the students, that can be done through using Open Badges. So for instance, if you have a short piece of learning, you can hopefully find a badge, create a badge for that, and then that way that will motivate your students to want to achieve that badge. Another challenge for learners at the moment is standing out from the crowd. So if there's two learners both achieving the same qualification at the end of the learning period, what's going to differentiate them from one another? So this is where Open Badges can come in to benefit learners as well. We can look at things like badging graduate attributes. So those that have completed the degree within their course will have had an opportunity to achieve a badge that would represent a graduate attribute, which would then make them stand out from the crowd. Also, a digital future. So we're very much in an online learning environment now in terms of learning, communication and work, as well as socialization. And also employers that are increasingly looking for employees in an online environment. So using websites like S1 Jobs, for instance, or looking at LinkedIn profiles to find out about potential employees. So this is the backdrop that's influenced Mozilla, who have initiated the development of a digital accreditation infrastructure. And this is what we know as Open Badges. It's begun to take off over the last couple of years, where people are exploring the Open Badges in terms of addressing the issues and challenges that I've just highlighted. The open infrastructure enables anyone to learn, issue and display Open Badges. So let's look at Open Badges. They're digital credentials, so the most obvious part of the system are probably the badges. Oops, sorry, I've just clicked forward one too many. Sorry about that. Okay, so an Open Badge is essentially an infused image. So this concept's not new. If you think about coats of arms or kite marks, they are essentially images that represent information. So what is a badge? I think this diagram is quite good in terms of explaining what is involved in an Open Badge. So within each Open Badge, so you'll have your digital representation of the badge, but each badge has information attached to it, or infused, as I just described. Within it, you'll find the badge name, you'll have the description of the badge, you'll have the criteria that had to be achieved in order to gain the badge, and you'll have who's issued it, and you'll also have how it's been evidenced. Another information that can be included are the date it's issued, standards that might have been aligned with, and also tags. So they're online visual representations of achievements, skills, attributes, learning competencies and contributions. Digital badges are baked in with metadata, baked into a very American term, but it comes from Mozilla, and they talk about baking information into their badges. So that's the metadata that sits behind the badge. And these include things like criteria, and also can include the evidence of how that criteria has been achieved. They're underpinned by the open badge infrastructure that's been developed by Mozilla. They provide an opportunity to capture and demonstrate some of those skills that are not currently explicit in an academic qualification, such as soft skills like presentation skills and communication skills, employability skills like leadership and the ability to mentor others or being a good team player. So lots of different attributes that open badges can represent. They're much more than a digital image, as I've just explained. They contain lots of relevant information, including the learning and competencies that have been achieved. The open infrastructure is key to ensuring the credentials or badges are not locked away in a closed system, allowing the earners or learners or students, as you would associate with them, to display these credentials in whichever way and whatever online platform they find useful. The user has control over their open badges. They store their badges in what is called a badge backpack. So every earner that wants to earn a badge will start their own backpack, and that's where they will store all their different badges. They can actually create different collections, so if it's badges for different related areas, they would maybe create different collections. So you might have some less formal badges that you might put in one collection. You might have some professional badges that you put in another collection. And then the users can decide exactly where they want to display these within a variety of different online sites. So it's very much about the earner being in control of what they want to display out there in the digital environment. Okay, here's an example of a badge collection that's been earned. They have been earned from various issuers, so earners can achieve badges from multiple organisations and store them in the backpack and then display them. Each badge is visually appealing, and as I said, when you click on it, it will take you back via a link to the all-important information, the metadata that sits behind that badge, the baked-in information. So thinking about what can be rewarded. So recognition for all types of learning. As you know, learning happens everywhere, and open badges can recognise all types of learning. So they're ideal for recognising and rewarding informal learning, or particular areas of formal learning that would not be explicit within a formal qualification. And they can be rewarded for participation, so commitment to the community might be an example, so volunteering, which would complement the curriculum for excellence, where criteria should be set and evidence to demonstrate that they are responsible citizens or effective contributors. It could be for learning events such as CPD events, MOOCs, forums, that may not fit in with the formal accreditation systems as we know them, such as the SQA and SCQF accreditation system. But also good for recognising short periods of learning. For example, learning of under 10 hours would not be given formal recognition by the SQA, but learning is happening nonetheless. So this is a way of being able to recognise and reward that type of learning. So this very much fits in with the idea that I mentioned before about chunking learning and making small episodes of learning to keep learners motivated. Often they can feel that the formal learning process is quite a long process. 6 months can be quite a long time when you're thinking about gaining a qualification. So a more granular approach can be taken when you are undertaking units and modules, where you can identify maybe a relevant topic that could be successfully achieved, and an open badge could then be awarded for that. So an example of that might be within a course unit, you might have a topic of colour theory, which would be part of the whole unit, and you could then look at what's involved in achieving that colour theory accreditation, and you could then create a badge around that so that they could have a specific badge for that short period of learning when they have been undertaking that particular topic. The badges can be awarded for skills. So, for example, presentation skills. Or within many courses, students are often asked to present ideas or showcase their work, and this can often seem quite daunting for those who've little experience of presenting. But receiving an open badge for demonstrating effective presentation skills not only provides evidence of their capabilities, but it also bolsters their confidence, which in turn should make the next time they present a little less daunting. They can be awarded for practical skills, so for example bricklaying or hairstyle techniques. You might have hair and beauty students who may be particularly good at certain types of hairstyles. They may have experience and be effective hairstylists for weddings, and then they could then earn a badge to demonstrate that they've got that particular skill, which would again differentiate them from the rest of from other learners who might be on the same course. Soft skills. I think, in my opinion, one of the real positives here is being able to badge softer skills, such as communication, time management, or for being a good team player. Particularly in lower level courses where there's a strong emphasis on developing softer skills, but they might not be explicit in the final qualification that you earn, or some of these skills may very well be embedded in that particular course of study. So again, pulling out some of these skills and creating badges for them so the earners can then achieve those badges, again fitting in with a sort of more granular approach to learning as well. And then there's newer skills as well, digital literacy skills, very much being talked about now. So being able to recognise skills such as writing a blog, which could be done for reflective purposes, reflecting on their learning, or for being an effective contributor in a discussion forum. Again, you'd have to set out the criteria in terms of what they have to do to achieve that badge and look at different ways of evidencing it. But these skills can then be badged, and then they can then demonstrate that they've actually gone through this process, have these skills, and have achieved a badge to show that they have an award for it. Achievements as well. We can look at different types of achievements. So some here I've given as examples are creating a website, or perhaps being the best designer in a group of students, or for leading a group. All of these could be part of the formal learning experience, but again, might not be explicit at the end of the learning period when they get their qualification. So enabling them to show that they've gained these skills as an additional skill to some of the skills that that would be the sort of part of the formal learning context. Right, so in terms of, that's what badges are. So in terms of thinking about who is involved in the badges, I've mentioned the word earner many times. Let's be quite clear about the terminology around the badges. In terms of Mozilla and how they describe badges, they very much talk about the issuer, the earner, and they talk about the consumer or audience. So the issuer is the person who is going to develop the badge, create the badge, and then they will be the awarders of the badge. So they would be people like credible organisations such as educational establishments or training organisations or professional bodies. They would be classed as issuers. Now, in terms of thinking around open badges, making sure that open badges maintain a value or a quite high currency, that'll be linked to the credibility of the organisation that's actually issuing these badges. The thinking around open badges is that because it's an open technical standard, that anybody can actually earn and issue and obviously see badges as well. So in terms of making sure that the value of these badges is maintained, linking it to a credible organisation is certainly one of the key benefits to make sure that they do maintain that high currency. Tutors and trainers can also issue badges, and they can be issued for peer assessment as well. So peers can issue badges to others. I'll give you an example of peer assessment. I'm going to go on and talk about our digital, our RSC digital open badges later on in the presentation, but I'll give you an example just now of peer assessment. Within one of our courses, well, within our Learning Online courses, we have open badges for successfully completing the courses. But within the courses as well, we also have badges for being a peer influencer. So within our courses, which last between 2 to 3 weeks, we'll have a group of participants who will all engage with the course and successfully complete at the end of it. But at the end of the course, we will ask them to nominate one of their peers who they think has been someone that's contributed the most to the learning experience. So it could be that they have been a mentor, or they provide support to their peers, or it could be that they have responded to more posts in discussion in the discussion forums. So at the end of the course, we will ask them to nominate the participant they think has been the best influencer in the group, and based on obviously the number of votes, we will then award a peer influencer badge to that particular person. Looking at the earner now, or the student learner as I would call them, they are the ones who can actually earn the badges. They're the ones that are awarded the badges. So learners could receive badges for evidence of prior learning, or for perhaps a prerequisite entry to a course. So I'll give you an example there. I was course leader for multimedia computing, and we had NQ students that would go on to an HNC course, but within that HNC course we'd also have direct entrance students as well. And we often felt that the direct entry students were slightly disadvantaged at the start of the course, because the NQ students will have had a lot of the software experience as part of that course. So we created like mini courses to introduce the direct entry students to the software. And that's the type of thing that you could create an open badge around, so that they might have a very short piece of learning to do to familiarise themselves with something that, an activity that they're going to have to go on and use at a higher level course, and you could badge that so that they've then evidence, they've got recognition evidence that they've actually undertaken that piece of learning successfully. And obviously learners have opportunities to participate in new learning skills and achieve designated tasks. So undertaking new skills, they can then be badged for that as well. Looking at the audience, so the types of people who are going to be looking at open badges in terms of making a judgment on it. These could be prospective employers, so somebody that's seeking employment could use these badges to demonstrate to employers these skills that they have over and above their formal qualifications. Or it could be educational establishments where students wish to go into a higher level of education, enter different courses, and they could then use some of these open badges to demonstrate these skills that they've attained in tandem with their formal course. So, the open badges, the key considerations, the process around open badges. Quite a lot to think about in terms of creating open badges. I mean, you need to think first and foremost about who's the badge for. Is it, who is the target audience in terms of creating the badge? And also think about the audience as well. Who's actually going to be judging these badges? How valuable are these badges going to be to somebody who is the consumer or the audience? Also thinking about why you want to issue badges. What's the motivator behind it? There'll be the earners will have their own motivations in terms of having an additional skill set. But from an organisational point of view, why do you want to be issuing badges? Perhaps it's to get your staff to engage more actively with CPD activities. You also need to think about what you want to reward. What learning do you wish to recognise? So what types of courses, or is it softer skills, or is it CPD activities? What skills and attributes does the badge represent? So we talked about presentation skills earlier, so the attribute that might be connected to that would be a good communicating attribute, or they might be demonstrating organisational and time management skills. Also thinking about what behaviours badges actually encourage. So things like contribution and engagement are behaviours that badges might encourage. What do you need to do to earn the badge? How are you going to gather the evidence that that criteria has actually been achieved? And you'll also need to think about what systems will be involved in the process. So currently WordPress, Moodle and Blackboard all have facilities for issuing badges, which I know Joan is talking about in the chat panel. So there's quite a lot to think about in terms of the process. We've kind of simplified it slightly by breaking it down into 3 different areas to think about, and we see them very much as a cycle. So there's badge systems design, there's badge content design, and there's badge brand design. So all 3 of these areas need to be considered when you're taking the creation of badges forward. Badge content design. Jisc's developed a badge canvas, which is a tool really to enable you to help you think through the considerations when starting your badge journey or when continuing to create further badges. It's a very good starting point in terms of getting you to think through the process. Even at the outset, it asks quite a lot of questions and gives you quite a lot of prompts which can help you think about considerations for your particular badges you want to create. So essentially it provides a framework and guidance on the key considerations. It includes things like the who, why and what, and it provides prompts to make you break that down a bit further. It gets you to think about the criteria and how it's going to be evidenced and whether or not assessment might be part of this, and if it is, the assessment is appropriate, what kind of assessment is it going to be, is it going to be reflective writing or perhaps a video evidence assessment or completing a quiz. So get you to think through that as well. It also gets you to think through the resources that you're going to need as well and the systems that are going to be required, as well as thinking through the sustainability of any badges or badge series that you decide to develop. It also gets you to think about endorsements. Badge apathy is always going to be a worry in terms of the ability for anybody to create badges. And so enabling badges to maintain their worth and to be deemed as valuable. If you can get employers to engage with the badge process, and if you can show them what you're doing, if you can have a discussion around what kinds of badges you're going to be creating, and perhaps getting their viewpoint on it as well, and if you can then create a badge that then they will happily endorse, that will certainly add value to your badges. So it's something you would perhaps want to consider when developing your badges. Badge brand design. So you need to think about how will the badge be visually represented and who's going to design it. So you need to think about that as well. It's important that you have a consistent visual feel when it comes to the badge design, so that there is a consistency amongst your badges. So when we, at the start, were designing the RSC Scotland badges, we did spend quite a lot of time considering the actual aesthetics of the badges and thinking about how, if we wanted to develop the badge series, how interconnecting badges might be consistent but be different enough so that they differentiated from each other. And you'll also need to think about systems or tools in terms of actually designing badges as well. So making sure you've got access to tools like Photoshop or Illustrator in terms of actually creating the aesthetics, or finding someone within your organisation that's got that skill set that can then create these badges on your behalf. And then badge system design, that's the bigger picture. So looking at badge pathways. I've talked about the granularity of badges quite a lot so far, but having a think about the hierarchy of your badges and how they would all interact together. So you're starting off with an idea or concept for a first badge, but get you to think about, okay, that badge is created, but how would that fit in with any subsequent badges that you may wish to develop? So trying to take a slightly bigger view to your badge creation at the start of your badge process. And also thinking about what we call badge constellation. So that's essentially how all your badges would interconnect and the pathways that might be built from there. Right, I'm going to stop. I know there's lots and lots going on in the chat panel and it's quite difficult to present and to keep up with it. So Joan, what's the general theme that's going on here? Is there any particular questions that need to be answered?
Well, there's certainly been a lot of chat. It's been quite challenging. I think one thing that I'm not sure about is the momentum towards its uptake. So I think Daniel had asked, that was one question that I hadn't really addressed. Because I'm not really very sure. He's asking what's the relative momentum towards the adoption versus Young's digital passports, and I'm not really quite sure what that is. So I don't know whether maybe Daniel, would you like to ask the question and maybe explain? You can enable your mic by just clicking on the talk button to ask the question, in case I've not kind of understood it properly. So just some other general chat around how to, well, I think that Lena was talking about the difficulty with the badge pack and how to issue them and things, so you'll see there's been some conversations about that. I think we've managed to kind of answer them really. Okay. James is typing, so we've got a question. Also asking about one of the other things, Shalane, I'm not quite sure whether you know, but I wasn't very sure about the involvement of awarding bodies. Now, I explained that we were working closely with the SQA here in Scotland, but I'm not sure if you're aware of any other awarding bodies that are getting involved with the Open Badges movement. No, the only one well, locally to us is the SQA. That's the only awarding body that I know that have actively issued a statement about Open Badges, and I know that they're investigating its uses to complement what they've already got in terms of qualifications. But I don't know of any other awarding bodies. No, I don't. Sorry. Okay, Ian's got a question. Can I ask a question generally? Have any of you started developing Open Badges at all? Does anybody like to comment? James is not. I've undertaken MOOCs that have had badges attached to them. Well, I think, Ian, the thinking around it is that I think the hope is that there will be interchange amongst organisations so that people don't start to develop or don't only develop badges in silos, and that badges can be, badges as they're appearing can be adopted by other organisations. I think the key thing to that is making sure there's some kind of network there to support that. In Scotland, we had our Open Badges in Scottish Education Group, and there were a variety of different organisations involved in that, all with an educational slant. So there was representations from all of the different educational levels. There were the awarding bodies like SQA and SCQF involved in that as well. So I think it's just about making sure there's some kind of network there so people can exchange ideas and let people know what's happening. I'm going to talk about our badges next, and then I'm going to highlight Borders College, who are also doing badges. So I know that from their perspective, they're quite happy for other people to come in and adapt their badges, providing you've had that dialogue with them in advance. But I know they're quite keen to enable people to repurpose or reuse what they're already creating. What else? Sorry, I'm just going to go back up the chat panel a little bit here. Ian's saying we support FE and HE across Scotland, so they're really for staff in the sector who participate in our initiatives. So your badges, these badges, yeah, sorry, that's Joan that's saying that, yes. So yes, so we have been creating badges for our own initiatives, but I'm assuming that a college like Borders who are doing CPD badges will have badges that other organisations, similar organisations, would probably want to create badges for similar CPD activities. So that's where having that dialogue with those that are already creating badges might be really worthwhile. Lena's saying she's had trouble getting it to work in Blackboard. We've been using WordPress and Moodle I've used for badges. I haven't personally used Blackboard. My understanding was that Blackboard was now able to support badges. I would suggest that maybe you go directly to Blackboard, Lena, and discuss that with them and see why you're not able to get them to work with you in Blackboard. Ian saying he works in ITE and he's interested in using open badges to demonstrate subject knowledge and skills in areas such as new computing curriculum. I think that sounds great, Ian. Yep, definitely. Are you going to try and pull out particular areas of the curriculum then, Ian? I'm just going to respond to James's question. He's asking if there's any guidance on the granularity of a task to earn a badge. I think it's, I don't think there are any specific guidelines on that, James. I think it really comes down to, you know, what you're trying to achieve at the end of the day, and it'll depend on who the badge is aimed at. When it comes within an FE context, for instance, you might find that you'll have granular badges within a particular course, so you'll maybe have some of the start of the course badges lower level that be working up to higher badges as they went through the course, but I don't know of any guidance on granularity of badges. Oh, and that's Ian letting us know he has thought through the different areas that he wants to award badges for: ESP coding, debugging, and subject knowledge as well. As I said, I was course leader for multimedia computing, and quite often within some of the descriptors there was scope for learners to achieve different skills. So podcasting, for instance, was one of the skills that many of them achieved, or they did audio video to support their learning as well. And there was never any explicit part of the qualification that stated that they actually got these skills, and that's where open badges can be used to highlight that they've got these specific skills, which are certainly worthwhile highlighting. So I'm just going to continue on to, I'm very conscious of time, I'm going to continue on to our open badges because I'm hoping that will help contextualize it a little bit for you. So looking at our RSC Scotland badges, our aim was to recognise the contribution to the learning of others. So that was our peer influencer awards, peer influencer badges, and accrediting the acquisition and application of knowledge, rewarding the sharing of practice, which we did through our iTech case studies, badges, increasing the learning of the sector, and motivating engagement with Jisc services. So Jisc aims to support the use of technology across the sector, and therefore our CPD offerings reflected that aim. So just to give you a snapshot of our badges, we have three main areas. We have the Digital Leadership Series. So for example, yesterday we had an event hosted in our Glasgow offices for the Professional Development Network, which was looking at mobile devices, and we had a full day event with them yesterday, and at the end of that event we explained to them how they could achieve a badge. Now, as I said, we don't want to be seen to be, we don't want to be contributing to badge apathy, and making sure that badges maintain their value is going to be really quite challenging and important. So we don't actually badge for attendance to any of our workshops or events. We really want to only badge when there has been a demonstration that learning has actually occurred. So what we asked the participants to do yesterday was we had a full day of different technologies and activities, and we've asked them to complete an evidence template to let us to highlight two ideas that they took from yesterday that they could use in their own practice. Also get them to think about the technologies and tools that would support that learning and that activity, and also getting into also think through any support or challenges they would foresee in terms of implementing that into their practice. So getting them to reflect and to provide evidence that they've gone through that process. So that's what our badges are based on in terms of evidencing that the learning is actually happening. Our digital practitioner series is here for you to have a look at. As you can see, we have created a hierarchy, so we've got an aggregated badge system here. On the left-hand side, we've got the badges for our Learning Online courses. So therefore, completing the courses, as I said, there are additional badges for peer influencer as well, available through the online courses as well. In the bottom right-hand side, we have our badges for our workshops and our virtual sessions, and so there's a combination of badges there for different workshops, etc. And as far as aggregating badges go, we have got a Technology for Learning badge, a CPD badge there, and that is awarded through a combination of achieving the badges underneath it. And then in order to motivate or to encourage people to continue with their CPD, we have created a Super Digital Practitioner badge. And in order to achieve that, you need to have achieved completed successfully 2 of our online learning courses, and also have completed the Technology for Learning badge. So a lot of planning and thought went into how our badges were going to all interact and interconnect. And this is how we have gone about creating our Digital Practitioner Badge series. We also have a Digital Innovator series as well, and I think I mentioned our iTech case studies. We have badges for those who've contributed to forums, for those that have contributed to iTech case studies, so sharing best practice across the sector. And we also have, they're also aggregated badges too. As an iTech case study contributor, you would receive a badge, but we have a super contributor badge as well that can be awarded for those that have contributed to multiple case studies. This is just to give you a quick idea of some of the things I've talked about earlier. This is the link back to our Learning Online Online Communications and E-Tutoring course badge. So this is the evidence, this is the link. So when you click on the digital badge, it will take you back to this link, and it will give you a full description of what the badge is awarded for and what had to be done in order to achieve that badge. So we've got quite specific criteria, and as I said, we have quite specific evidence as well attached to our badges to so they maintain hopefully maintain their value. This is what the Learning Online participants receive at the end of a course, so they can then vote and give us some guidelines on what we're looking for in terms of the Peer Influencer Award. So they can then register their votes, and the person who's received the most votes will then be awarded the Peer Influencer badge. And this is some feedback from our courses. It was nice to see our badges scheme in operation. I really did think that collecting badges incentivised my participation. So it is about motivating people to want to undertake learning and rewarding them for achieving that learning at the end of the day. So just before we stop, I'll quickly highlight Borders College for you and some more resources that you might find useful in terms of taking forward open badges. So Borders College, as I mentioned, have been early adopters of open badges, and they have created their open badges to improve motivation as well as to enhance employability. So they're using them with learners, and they're finding that it's improving retention through stepped achievements, so taking that more granular approach to the learning. They've also been using it as part of their CPD, and I believe that they no longer issue any paper certificates at Borders College for CPD. It's all open badges now, and that has a twofold approach. It also then means that all staff in the college have now got an awareness of open badges as well, which is really important when you're trying to take open badges forward within an organisation. And So in terms of improving motivation and enhancing employability, as I said, they've broken up what they class as a difficult learning journey into smaller, more achievable parts, so they've chunked up the learning, and they've encouraged returners, and they've also enabled student differentiation. So all of these things that I talked about before. Now, we have our case studies are all hosted on our website and in our showcase. I've popped a link in here to the Borders College one, but if you want to find out more about the case studies there, if you go to our showcase, I've got a list of resources here that you might find useful. So some of the tools that you might find that will be useful for getting you started with open badges. There's the design canvas, the design sheet that I showed you. I think that's a really good place to start. It'll certainly give you considerations to think through when you're thinking about developing open badges. Mozilla have also developed a badge kit, which is another set of resources that you can use. Digital Me have been very much at the forefront of open badges as well, so they've got information and resources there as well. The issuing platforms, as I said, are WordPress, Moodle and Blackboard. I hadn't really heard of anybody having issues with Blackboard before, but I'm not sure there may well be a problem with Blackboard. I think that they would be the best people to discuss that with. And also, in terms of creating the badges, not everybody is naturally creative and artistic, so there are actually some tools and resources available to help you actually create the aesthetics of the badges as well now. So there's a badge maker resource there and open badges. So that takes me to the end of the presentation. Just a quick summary. Open badges, they're an online representation of skills and achievements gained. The essential information is baked in. They're verified by credible organisations, so that the information that's attached to the badge would be hosted in a secure part of an organisation's website or another digital platform that they would have. They can be shared through a variety of different mediums, social media, blogs, websites, very much about the user having control over how and where they display these badges. And as I said, they're an open technical standard, so in theory anybody can issue badges. So that takes me to the end of the presentation. Just going to have a look and see what you've been chatting about. Has anybody got any further questions? Yeah, James is saying that he thinks that it needs to be clear what badges are actually worth for prospective employers to take them seriously. I think that's really true. I was at an event at University of Scotland where there were they'd invited employers in, and there were students there and there was educators there as well. And it was quite interesting to hear the discussions around badges and how employers would view badges. But I think engaging with employers and having a discussion and a dialogue with them about the sort of things they're looking for is really important in terms of making sure that your badges are going to be viewed as valuable by employers. James is saying, despite seeing cynicism, he actually sees great mileage in it as long as the coin is not devalued. I think that's really the key thing. I think the key thing is to avoid badge apathy, where they're just they're not holding their value. There's no currency in having badges, and I think a robust and well-considered approach to badges is probably the key to that. So that brings me to the end of the presentation. If you've got any further questions, I'm happy to answer them. With implementation of badges top down and bottom up, if that makes sense. With the RSC Scotland, or with the college? With RSC Scotland, we're quite, Scotland's kind of taking the lead in terms of open badges from a Jisc perspective. So I would say that it's quite difficult. I don't quite understand the question, to be honest. Joan understood it. It's an initiative that we developed. Yeah, we've been taking the open badges forward across Scotland. Okay, thank you everyone for joining us. And I wish you well in your badge developments.
Hi Shalane, well done.
Joan, I wasn't happy with that at all, but anyway. You know when you just can't get your words out and you're just not...
Well, I didn't feel like that at all. I mean, the chat panel was really quite intense, actually, I have to say.
I could see that. I could see it, and I couldn't do anything about it.
I know I was really focusing on that. So, you know, and it was good actually, but it was quite intense. You need to take your time and have it. We'll leave it open for a wee. In fact, what I'll do is will I just
copy it? Yeah, can you?
I'll copy it and send it to you because it was quite a lot going on, and there was some questions that
That'd be interesting. Well, when I was going through it this morning, I was thinking to myself,
intense.
Okay, well, yeah, I just thought to myself, okay, we've got a sort of time marking open badges here, but things are moving on, and I'm not very sure exactly where they're going at the moment, and I felt that I should have done a bit of research on that first, but just not at the time or the...
No, I mean, to be honest, I think you just have to... We've taken it so far, and, you know, we can't take it much further. I think I put something in at the end about kind of alluding to the fact that Jisc haven't really done as much as maybe they should have. Because I knew that that guy was from Edina, and you know how they're looking for different products. So you know, he put a comment in about having a kind of central service to issue badges. You know, that could be a product.
Yeah.
You know, that Jisc could develop, or Edina could develop. Edina's not been taken into Jisc; they're the ones that are in Edinburgh. But you know, they could provide a service. That's just it's a business opportunity for them. I think.
Okay, well, we did it.
Well done. I'll send you this. I'll send you the chat.
Yeah,
but I need to deal with that because I think I actually couldn't really concentrate on what you were saying a lot of the time because I was having to chat. But it was good.
Yeah. It just didn't flow like I was quite wanting to flow.
Well, I thought it did actually. Well, as far as I was concerned, it did.
Well, you made me feel better.
Anyway. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, I need to dash. I'm going to be meeting at 2 o'clock. But
right,
I'll
have a good afternoon.
Okay, bye.